They used more men in their assault on my home than they used to take down Bin Laden, or El Chapo, or Pablo Escobar.
I remember thinking, oh my God, I might not get another Christmas. And all these things that we all take for granted, all of a sudden wasn't a given anymore.
You lot are deluded, it's not happening, it's not happening.
I mean, with greatest respect to Donald Tusk, it takes two to tango.
What's it like being outside?
Oh my dear lordy lordy, it is cold. My teeth are cold.
I don't think I've ever felt this cold before in my life.
I was a rescued child, if you like, and the personal level is I can only thank Britain that we were able to come here, and I was taken in by an English family. The gentleman happened to be the secretary of the Labour Party in Ashton-under-Lyne, and I have with me the label that I wore around my neck when I was getting on the train with my 3.5-year-old sister. I have with me, for people who don't believe this has ever happened, my autograph book that my grandfather gave me the night we were leaving. And I have with me a brochure where you will see a memorial to the parents who were brave enough to put us on those trains. The memorial which stands in Prague, which has little children's hands on one side of the glass window and the parents on the other, saying goodbye, probably knowing that they would never see us again.
5% is a significant figure, saying either this hasn't happened or it is all just exaggerated. I mean, you can just dismiss that out of hand, can't you?
Well, you can't, but the interesting thing is, because I talk to a lot of schools, to a lot of children, to WIs, to Rotaries, all of them never ever have said it didn't really happen, because I have the facts to show them that it did. I wish you could see the hundreds of letters that I get after my talks. And these are very often from, because I talk to 11 and 12-year-olds, and I have one that I take with me, which I read, because this child is saying, having heard my story, and she finishes off with, I now cherish my parents because I have parents to cherish. That's the last sentence. And that's an 11-year-old child who's written that. And I have those letters at home. And obviously, it's certainly getting through to the children.
Like thousands of women in the UK, Laura Flaherty's life has been touched by cancer. She's one of the lucky ones. A smear test picked up her cervical cancer early enough for surgery to be able to save her life. But Laura will never forget the day she got her diagnosis.
There was a Macmillan card on the desk, and the consultant, it's that old cliche of, I'm so sorry, but it's cancer. And, excuse me, I broke. There's no other way to put it, I just broke. And they just let it happen, I think, they were so good. They just knew I needed that moment to just break down. And it's so surprising what can run through your mind in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, I'd died. My children had, I kept saying to them, I've got 2 young children. They're not going to remember me. They won't remember me. If I die from this, I'm going to be, a picture in the house, and they say, oh yeah, that was my mum, but I don't remember her. And I begged him to save me. I said, whatever it is you need to do, how do we fix this? It needs to be fixed, and we need to fix it now. So he said, well, we're going to have to wait for a scan, see where the cancer is, and then we'll get a plan of action. So I had to wait the weekend, which was my little boy's birthday. And I just remember being at his birthday thinking, is this the last one I'm going to see? Have I made it good enough? Have I made it memorable enough for him? And then I remember thinking, oh my God, I might not get another Christmas. And all these things that we all take for granted, all of a sudden wasn't a given anymore. And it was a very long weekend. It was such a long weekend. And I just remember thinking, have I made my life the best it could possibly be? And the answer was probably no then. I do live a completely different life now. And so Monday came, I had my MRI scan, and 2 days later we had a plan in action. It hadn't spread, I could have surgery and everything would be good. I did have to have a hysterectomy, but I was incredibly lucky. I had 2 children, I had 1 of each. No, it's not nice having the option taken away, but do I want more children or do I want to live? It's, you know, the answer's clear there. It was my best friend's wedding coming up, and I was meant to be bridesmaid, and I just had that in mind. I thought, I want to walk down the aisle with her, and it was so touch and go, but I got my all clear, and then 2 days later it was the wedding. So, I mean, I was dosed up to the eyeballs on painkillers, kind of rattling my way down the aisle with her, but I was there, which was what I wanted, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Roger Stone is one of Donald Trump's closest friends and most loyal allies. He appeared in court this week and pleaded not guilty to 7 criminal charges, including witness tampering and obstruction of justice. Before the hearing, I asked him about the Russia investigation and whether or not he's willing to cooperate with Special Counsel Robert Mueller.
Well, I'm willing to tell the truth, but I'm not willing to make up stories or bear false witness against anybody, including the president. The president has done nothing wrong. He certainly hasn't colluded with Russia, and therefore I'm not going to make up false tales about him to ease the pressure on myself. That would be perjury.
Are you willing to talk about the conversations you had with Donald Trump?
To the extent that I can remember them, but they are, generally speaking, just political gossip. How am I doing in Ohio? What do you think about Florida? Do you think we can really win Michigan? Have you seen any polling? The Trump campaign, unlike most modern campaigns, didn't spend a lot of money on polling.
And in all that time, despite the fact that the president was tweeting about WikiLeaks, was tweeting about Russia, you never once discussed Russia.
That is correct, and there is no evidence to the contrary, because it just didn't happen. The president answered this question in his written interrogatories to Mr. Mueller. I have answered the question before the House Intelligence Committee. Those answers are both consistent and true. They leak like a sieve, or they conduct raids on your home to depict you like a criminal, like a drug kingpin, when you have no prior criminal record and you're not accused of any violent crime. But I shouldn't be allowed to go on, the Sky News and defend myself. So I do have a concern about that. The idea that they had to, run a bin Laden-like assault, although they used more men in their assault on my home than they used to take down bin Laden or El Chapo or Pablo Escobar, try to make me look like public enemy number 1. This is an attempt to poison the jury pool, to make me look like a criminal.
They say they believed you would tamper with evidence, though, and that's what they were trying to get.
I've been under investigation for 2 years. If I were going to tamper with evidence, which I haven't, why would I wait until last Thursday? It's illogical.
New measures have been put in place to try to tackle the spiralling problem of knife crime. Our home editor, Jason Farrell, spoke to one gang in London.
If somebody touches me here, my whole gang's gonna come to you, your whole family's getting killed. Either way, if you touch me, I'm touching your whole family.
Yeah.
If you touch my brethren, if you touch him, I'm coming after you. We didn't choose this life. Right. I'm not gonna speak about what happened to me, but I know that I didn't want this, but I had to do it. Because if I didn't do it, I would die in like a couple of days.
What do you mean you would have died in a couple of days? Can you just elaborate a little bit?
Please, if you don't talk about it. People are dying over nothing, like stabbing each other for like nothing, just for the money and all that stuff.
When you say just for the money, I mean, if you're stabbing someone, where do you get the money from? Is it, do you know what I mean? Is it you're saying, right, you're going to take over their clients?
To be honest, I've got people that will call me and say they want someone hurt. Yeah. Get it? So if they want someone hurt, they make the phone call and we get it done. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. It might not be, certain people don't want to go on camera and rate a tear, but these things do happen, innit? I'm not afraid to put it out there. That's the life that I live. Do you know what I mean?
But someone you don't even know yourself, but your mates told you.
Even more the better, because they don't know who I am.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? So if I hit them up, nothing is going to come back to me. Yeah.
I wonder if you were able to kind of sit down with the Prime Minister for a few minutes and say, I want to explain to you why I am involved in this life. What would you say?
I'll tell the Prime Minister, I didn't choose this life chose me. if they could come with some sort of opportunity, I would push the youths out there. But they've got nothing to do. What are they going to do? Sit on the streets wasting their life? What else can they do? I'll tell Theresa May to put some money into the youth.
It's a country in turmoil. Protesters on the streets. A president reviled by many. International support for his rival is growing. Venezuela's self-declared interim president, Juan Guaido, is in hiding, fearing for his life. I went to speak to the man who wants to bring change to this country.
The protests that have taken place often end violently. More are due. Do you expect them to be violent as well?
The world has seen this, that we are doing this peacefully. Why are they doing this? Because they want to instill fear in the people. But what we have here in Venezuela is hope. And despite those risks, we are going to keep ourselves on the streets. We will continue to get support from the world, not only Europe. For example, the ultimatum given to Maduro.
He says he believes that Maduro would do anything to keep in power.
There's no doubt about it. That's almost a guarantee from a regime with so many social and political and economic demands. When they don't have ways to solve these problems, they use violence. They've killed 40 young people, and that hurts a lot. 700 people detained. But that will not stop the social and political pressure, and we can enforce the majority we have as a parliament and as the president in charge of Venezuela.
You're obviously in a lot of danger. This is a regime that has a history of dealing with people, often violently, or at least in prison. How do you feel about that, and do you fear for your family as well?
There have been threats on my life, and they're not recent. My generation in Venezuela grew up in dictatorship, and we've had to deal with losing friends to protest, see them imprisoned or see them being tortured. That's the reality. What we fear is this carries on.
The ayes to the right, 317. The noes to the left, 301.
Theresa May had some success in the Commons on Brexit this week, but her country remains bitterly divided, and so does her party. We saw evidence of that on All Out Politics before Tuesday's key votes, when the Tory backbencher Anna Soubry clashed with the Brexit minister, Lord Callanan.
You just said that these were all devices to delay Brexit. That's exactly what this government is now seeking to do, because you're now... Sorry, your government... My government's policy is to go back to the European Union and to renegotiate the withdrawal agreement on the backstop, even though we were told it was the only deal in town, and the EU have made it very clear they will not shift on the backstop. So what is the point of going back to Europe, and what is the Prime Minister going to achieve?
Because we lost the vote in the House of Commons by 230 votes. Many of your colleagues could not accept it. This is what you say we should be doing, which is listening to the will of the House of Commons. Of course we thought it was a good deal. That was the deal that we thought deserved support. It didn't get that support.
But what is
we
her
lost
aim
by
going
a
to be?
huge majority.
What is
so we've
her aim going
accepted
to be
the
on
will
the
of the House of
backstop?
Commons, and we are going to go back to the European Union and seek to renegotiate in a way that is acceptable to the House of Commons.
On what basis, though? What basis will you seek to renegotiate the Northern Ireland
Well, quite
backstop?
possibly on the basis of having won a vote in the House of Commons.
What is she going to ask them to do? What is the Prime Minister going to ask the European Union to do?
We are going to ask them to look at the various concerns that have been expressed. I don't want to be too specific about it, but
No,
for
because you
instance,
can't be. I'm not being rude, but you
for
can't
instance, the fact that it would be indefinite, so possibly of a clause to look at it again, to re-examine it, to give the House of Commons further options, to look at a time limit. There are a number of different possible options that could be put in there that could make it acceptable to the House of Commons. Because if it isn't acceptable, then we don't have a deal, and we end up in a no-deal scenario that nobody wants.
Do you not think it might have been a rather good idea if we hadn't done all these things at the beginning of the process, as opposed to at the 11th hour?
OK, we're going to have to leave it there. Let's not go back to the beginning of the process.
What the Prime Minister can do now, thanks to the parliamentary decision for which I must say I and many others have campaigned. What she can do now is go to Brussels, get the freedom clause that the UK needs.
Just as she rides off on her unicorn to Brussels, the reality check landed in my phone. This is from Mr. Tusk's spokesperson. The backstop is part of the withdrawal agreement, and the withdrawal agreement is not open for renegotiation. The December European Council conclusions are very clear on this point. You lot are deluded. It's not happening. It's not happening.
I mean, with greatest respect to Donald Tusk, it takes two to tango. There is a negotiation going on. You would expect him to say that. But believe me, the EU has every incentive to give us the deal we need.
This weather event is called a polar vortex, which is when very cold air rushes south from the Arctic. This one's particularly dramatic and widespread, which means that tens of millions of people across the country are facing this plunge in temperatures.
It's so cold that your eyelashes are frozen.
Yeah, it's definitely chilly.
Do you live here?
I do, yeah.
You ever experienced cold like it?
Yeah, I don't know. I grew up in western Colorado in the mountains, so it gets kind of cold up there, but it's pretty cold.
Tell me how you stay warm in conditions like this.
I mean, just like layer and good, and just have good like long johns and good layers and stuff, so you're fine.
And you'll be back inside soon?
Yeah, I walked out to the planetarium, and I wanted to see the lake, and I want to see the river. So it's, I don't know, you don't have that many opportunities to really experience this, so it's kind of fun.
What's it like being outside in these
temperatures? My dear lordy, it is cold. My teeth are cold, actually, so it's cold.
That's quite an achievement.
I know, teeth being cold, I agree.
Have you ever felt cold like this before?
Never, not in my life, no. Colder than Antarctica, right?
It's colder than anywhere.
What do you think about it? How does it feel in your skin?
It hurts, it's cold.
You going back inside somewhere warm now?
Yeah, we came out just to take a picture, then now we're going back in.
It is cold. My lips are frozen, and I've only been out here about 2 minutes.
You're shivering.
Yes, I am. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. We don't get this cold.
Yeah, me too. I don't think I've ever felt this cold before in my life. And we've only been out here for a few minutes, like you said, so.
You worried about frostbite now?
I'm starting to, yeah.
What does it feel like to be out in this temperature?
Invigorating.
That's it?
That's it.
What effect has the cold had on you?
Well, all my appointments have been canceled, so I'm heading back to North Carolina.
Where it's a bit warmer?
A bit warmer.
The Sky News team will soon head to the depths of the ocean. We'll broadcast a live TV news bulletin from under the sea, and we'll see firsthand the damage plastic pollution is doing to marine life there. I spoke to the UN's Special Envoy for the Oceans, Peter Thompson.
There's no doubt that the ocean is in deep trouble, and of course, your viewers will be well aware of the plastic scourge, but there are things like overfishing of the ocean to worry about, where we're driving our fish stocks to extinction. There is the climate change effects of ocean warming and ocean acidification, deoxygenation, spreading of dead zones. It's not a great story as we enter the Anthropocene age, but we have a plan to save the health of the ocean, and I really commend Sky for what it's doing in this regard.
And Peter, you talked about the threats there, overfishing, pollution, plastics you mentioned, sea warming. What do you consider, what does the UN consider to be the biggest threat to the ocean at the moment?
Without doubt, climate change, therefore fidelity to the Paris Climate Agreement and the implementation and scaling up of our ambition. You'd be aware that the Secretary-General of the United Nations has called for a high-level climate summit in September in New York this year. This is the key to it, because it's the GHG emissions in the atmosphere which are causing the ocean warming and acidification and sea level rise, and 80% of our ocean problems.
Yeah, and how difficult with that in mind is it when countries like the United States and others are not showing a real commitment?
I find that the United States, if you look at the people, the philanthropies, the states, the cities and so on, are all very committed. So I'm not too worried about that. But, you know, it's for all of us, individuals, cities, governments, multilateral organizations. Nobody can step aside from the responsibility of meeting the Paris climate change goals and heightening them, because the frightening thing is that we're still on track for a 3 to 4 degree world when we've just had this special report come out from the IPCC, which says that anything over 1.5, once we get up to 2 degrees, we've lost coral reefs, for example. And that's where we're heading at the moment. So time for action from everybody.
We're live on Sky News here. We're just admiring your snowman, and there's a snow dog here as well.
Oh, you spotted him. Thank you. Not finished yet. Work in progress.
So, how much snow have you got around your way?
Well, we're from Watlington,
Oh,
so this is
local,
it. Yeah. We intend on using all of Watlington's snow to finish this. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant, and it's just so beautiful
Oh,
up
it's
here.
brilliant. It's fantastic. So we're really hoping for a snow day today, and we got it. So.
And the children off school and everyone just helping you make this wonderful snowman.
I think I'm taking it more seriously than they are.
That's a good effort, really, isn't it?
Yeah, great effort.